Hey, I'm Ed. Tonight we're going to make tomato soup. Let's talk about the ingredients for a second in our tomato soup. So obviously we need tomatoes. Optimally, if you had perfect ripe tomatoes at some point, that would be great. But because they're not usually available except in the summer, um, and hothouse tomatoes don't have the same taste, so don't even bother if you can find heirloom or farm tomatoes. If not, year-round we just use good Italian tomatoes. I'm using crushed, but you could definitely use like diced tomatoes would be fine. And what we have here is, on your right, are the essential ingredients. We need tomatoes, stock, chicken or beef. I prefer chicken, it's just a lighter taste. Basil, dried basil or fresh if you have it. Garlic, I'm using 4 cloves, and an onion. So what we're going to do is just chop up the onion, and we're going to saute the onion, then add the garlic, then add our liquids and the basil and salt and pepper. And that's the basic tomato soup. Very easy. Going to simmer it for about an hour. Now what I like to do is, while it's cooking, I like to add in a dose of umami. Japanese umami flavors. Gives it a lot of earthiness. So I'd give it a triple dose by putting in Parmesan, soy sauce, and Worcestershire sauce, like a tablespoon of each. I think you'll find that's pretty incredible. All right, so we'll be sauteing up our veggies in a second. All right, so the first step is to take some extra virgin olive oil if you have it. That would be great. A couple tablespoons. And I preheated the pan a little bit so I can put in the onions right away. Now, we don't want to brown these. We're just going to soften them, until translucent. About probably 3 minutes at a kind of a medium-high heat. And then we will add our garlic. We've been sweating down our onions, making them translucent for about 3 minutes here. I think that's good. Now we just add our garlic. Now this, we're only going to put in for about 30 seconds. All we want to do is get a little bit of the garlic smell going. Don't want to take the chance of browning them at all. So I'm going to do this one live. Okay, after about 30 seconds, now we can add our liquids. I'm going to add our tomatoes. I use one 28-ounce can. And then I add 1 box, which is 32 ounces or 1 quart of chicken stock, and I rinse out the can so we don't lose any of the tomatoes. Now we're not going to season this yet because, as I mentioned, I like to use soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and Parmesan as my spices, are like spicing agents, and they're going to have like salt and other stuff in there. So I'm going to wait till later, till it's boiled down a bit. So now what we do is we bring this up to a boil, and then we simmer it for about an hour. And here goes my heaping tablespoon of basil. Tomatoes love basil. Again, if you have fresh, that's great, but dried is perfectly good because it's got all this liquid and it'll rehydrate decently. Actually, that looks a little less basil than I want, so I'm going to add a 2nd tablespoon. So we're going to go with 2 tablespoons of basil. I mean, this is where you could have the fun. You could stop right here and you would have a great tomato soup, just the tomatoes, the broth, the basil, and then season it with salt and pepper. But by adding these umami ingredients later, I'm going to add these probably about halfway in, maybe about after half an hour of simmering. You're going to find a really rich and delicious soup. Okay, see you back in half an hour. Alright, half an hour's up. Now I'm going to add in our other seasonings, the Worcestershire sauce, the soy sauce, tablespoon of each. Heaping tablespoon of Parmesan. I know that may sound a little odd to use Parmesan as a seasoning agent, but it's salty, it's got tons of umami in it, and that little bit of dairy adds just a little hint of creaminess to this. Now we get the earthy flavors going. Another 20-30 minutes of simmering, and this will be done. And then we can taste it and adjust the seasonings of salt and pepper if we need to. Now, you notice I've had the stick blender out. If you've got one of these, this is going to be awesome. If you don't mind the little chunks of onion and stuff and have more of a country style, you could just leave it at that. But the great thing about a stick blender is obviously you can just chuck it right in the pot, and this will smooth out the soup to the consistency you want, chopping up all the little bits of garlic and onion. I like it like this, so I'm gonna blend it just a bit, just so that it's nice and even. Obviously, you could also do that in a regular blender or a food processor, but you'd have to let the soup cool down for quite some time before that would work. Okay, back in half an hour. So our 1 hour is up. I turned the soup off the heat. I just tasted it for seasoning, and I thought the salt was good because of all the soy sauce and the Worcestershire and the Parmesan, but I was going to add a little bit of pepper to the pot. Obviously, people can add salt and pepper to their bowls if they want. And to serve it up, our final step, I put a piece of toasted whole grain bread into a soup bowl. You could use baguette, that would be great too. Nice and toasted. Add some soup. And then the bread should float up to the top, like that. And I just finish it off with a little bit of Parmesan cheese right on the toast. There we have it, tomato soup. Bon appetit. Enjoy it.